had to meet in the houses, in the halls, or anywhere they could meet. And now you read this and you will see it's good reading, just read it. And the next one was 1 Corinthians, and that too was talking about the church and everything. And then Psalms 18, and the next one, Psalm 18, 30 to 41, and that was David's hymn of thanksgiving. This is just telling you, letting you know a little more about David, how he was and how he wanted to praise the Lord. Now David, he was a man of God's, he's a man of God, say, after my own heart. And that was because he pleased God, he wanted justice for people, he was a kind, loving man, kind, loving person. That's who David was, that little boy. Even then, he still was a nice, loving person. And in Psalms, the next related scripture, Psalms 18, and look at 44 and 1, and all the Psalms, it too was just talking about how God, how he gave thanks and all that. So these related scriptures just really kind of let you know about what was going on with the people that was involved. Now let's look at the lesson. And this first scripture here is 1 Samuel 17, 40 to 41. And this happened around 1023 BC. And the place was in the valley of Elah. So 1 Samuel 17, verse 17, verse 40 says, and he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had, even in a scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistines, or Philistines, how you want to call it. 41, and the Philistines came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistines looked about, and saw it on verse 42, and when the Philistines looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of a fair countenance. They're just saying that we'll talk about that in case I don't get a chance to come back. That's just me. When they say disdain, he looked at him with scorn on his face. That's verse 42. And you got the book, it's on page 130. 130, on page 130. And the verse 42 is the one we're talking about when it's saying, when the Philistines looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. All that said, we talk about this as little as we go on, because this 30 minutes is not so long, and we just kind of, you know. Okay, so what all that's saying is that when Goliath looked at David, he said, you know, he looked at him with scorn. You send something, you send a little something out here like this to fight me? Because that's who was come out to fight him. And he was using, they saying he was rude. It just mean he was a nice looking, fair, because they're just talking about him. He was a nice looking, a handsome boy. And 43, and the Philistines said unto David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his God. And that stave is what they're talking about in there, because what it say, David had his staff, and a stave is a stick. So then and this to show how what Goliath thought of David. You say, you know, you come after me like I'm a dog, you know, with a stick. You send a little whelp out here like this with a stick for me, and I'm a dog, and hey, I'm a champion. I'm a great big, you know, mountain of a man. You're not many like me. Okay, number 44, verse 44. And the Philistines said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. 45. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defiled. Because see, with him looking at David and acting the way he acts, he's really, because God put David there. See, that's one thing we need to say. Why would David come up there? How did David have, the nerve to go out there with him? We're going to find out what we use. Or, we know what David killed him with, And then he's looking at them. Am I a dog? Look at me who I am. And you consider me to be a dog to come out here with a little stick, to send me a little boy out here with a stick and think you're going to do something to me? Number 46. This day will be the Lord to deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcass to the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. So David threw the same thing back at him. Here I am a little, you call me a, whatever, and here I am, you just wait, because what you saying, that's what I'm going to do to you. And only that we're going to see, David's going to do more than that. After he does what he said, after he did to Goliath, what Goliath said that he was going to do to him, then he cut his head off. Okay, let's go, number 47. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spears, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. This is what David tells him. And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hastened and ran towards the army to meet the Philistines. Can you imagine that? This little boy out here running to meet this big giant. Okay, number 49. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slang it and smote the Philistines in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. Now, I'm telling you, that God, just showing us what God can do. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistines, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheaths thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. So what did God do? Take that little boy, beat the army, and ran them off. So I'm telling you. Okay, now let's go to these questions. Now we have read this. Let's go to the question. And question number 1 said, who was Goliath and what challenge did he present to Israel? Okay, and we know Goliath was that 9-foot giant. The Philistine champion with he was heavily armed and with big spears and all that. And he had more than David, because he had a shield, a man going in front of him with a shield. So David had none of this. He had all of this, so he was well covered, well protected. Okay, number 2. And then the other part say too, challenge. And what did he present? Really, they thought he's going to slaughter, just go out there and kill this man to kill Israel, and that way he would be the winner. That's what they thought, that their army would win. They couldn't lose. They thought he couldn't lose. Okay, number 2. How did David initially end up on the battlefield? Well, how did he end up on the battlefield? His father's. Okay, you want to answer? Okay.
His father.
That's right. His father sent him. His father sent him to check on his 3 older brothers that were in the military. Okay. And then what weapon did David take with him into the battle? We know what he took. What he took that slingshot. That's
slingshot.
right. That slingshot. And I did a little reading on it, and they say that the slingshot that David had was like an ancient slingshot. And in that day, they say that a slingshot was just like a long strip of leather with a little pocket on the end. And you put the rock in there and throw it. And we looked at when they say David had smooth stones.
Yeah.
So evidently, they thinking that maybe these smooth stones had something to do with the deliverer of it, okay? And number 4, am I on 4? Yeah, it say number 3, what weapon did David take with him into the battle? That was the slingshot. What was a sling and how was it used? We just talked about that.
Yeah.
What does the Bible say about David's physical appearance? Anybody remember how did they say David looked? He was handsome, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was young and he was handsome. They say he had a ruddy complexion, so that means that he was out in the sun, so that means he had some color in his skin. Number 6, how did Goliath respond when he saw David? How did Goliath respond? What did Goliath say about David when he saw him? He said, you
He thought he can whoop him because he was a little young teenager.
That's right, and what he said, you sent a what after
Little
me?
boy out here.
Yeah, that's right, little boy out there, and you sent a dog out here to me with a stick. You know, what's that supposed to do? Am I a dog that you sending out here with a stick to take care of me?
He had a lot of nerve because I was scared to go into my job.
Yes, he did have a lot of nerve. Number 7, in what manner did David approach the giant? What did David do? When that giant looked at him and he got upset and all of that, do you think Goliath's reaction to David, do you think that did that have anything to do with Goliath thinking in his mind and maybe give David a little edge? What do you think that he saw? Do you think it affected him psychologically that when he looked and see, are they joking? You know, what is going on here? And with him being, looking at what's going on and being kind of upset over it, I mean, he just gonna start walking toward David, and David did what to the giant? He started running to the giant, right?
Yeah.
This had to affect Goliath thinking, what is going on here? Let me go slaughter him and get this over. So that's the manner that David approached him when he came. You know, he just started running towards him. Okay, number 8. Why do you think David was so confident of victory? What do you think, David? I mean, now look here. This. I don't know if David had ever seen a giant or not. The Bible doesn't say. But can you imagine this? Maybe 6. They say he was between the ages of 8 and 16. Now we don't know exactly what age he was, but even if he was 16, can you imagine a 16-year-old boy? Because at 16, kids still grows. And this thing, can you imagine this 16-year-old boy looking up at this mountain of a man? I mean, 9 feet, that's up there pretty good.
That's really up there.
And can you think maybe David is 5'6" or 5'7"? Maybe he's that tall and maybe he's not. But anyway, can you imagine him looking up at this? And not only that, he's a great big giant man. Right. And it also mentions somewhere talking about how much his sword weighed and all of that. And they say that he had some spikes on his jacket that weighed 15 pounds, you know, and all that kind of stuff. Now, just think, can you imagine what this man looked like? I mean, he almost looking like a bulldozer or something coming after a person, ready to just mow you down. Even now, a 9-foot man dressed like that with a sheath and a great big sword hanging on him and a great big long, can you imagine what kind of spear he had? He didn't have a little spear like one of you guys would be holding in your hand.
No.
I mean, he had a great big long piece of iron.
Right.
And if he threw that into David, it would probably just tore David apart. That's right, I'm telling you. And then number 8, why do you think David was so confident? Why do you think David, I mean, knowing this, David knew this. Now, why do you think he had so much confidence in running to meet this man and running to meet death? That's what he was looking at, death, and running to meet death. What gave David the confidence? What made David brave that he would run into something like that?
Well, I guess I'm thinking maybe he knew the Lord.
Exactly. That's exactly what he said. And he told them what? You know, you're a human army, but then I represent God's army. I represent God and man, and I know, and he had what? Faith. What we need today. Now, see, David had that kind of faith that no matter what I'm up against, the Lord is going to take care of me, and I know it. He had faith in the Lord. And that's what he went in there with. And he went in there with, I have faith in the Lord, and you can't beat me. Okay. Number 9, what happened when Goliath was hit with the stone? When he was hit, where was he hit with that stone? When David slung that stone at him, where did it hit him?
In the head.
Right in his forehead. And then what happened to Goliath?
He fell.
He fell to the ground. And I can imagine everything around that shook when he hit the ground. I'm telling you. It was a big man fell down and hit that ground. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure and I can just imagine how frightened that army was. Now I know that's not. When they was back there looking, just thinking. See now, they didn't have. We're not talking about 200 or 300 men in the army. When those guys, if you ever seen a picture of those armies back there, then they had thousands of men in the army. And then you know, in here they standing back here waiting to kill up these Israelites. They still want to kill the Jews today over there. They still want the Jews, and some of them said this. And one of those leaders said that the world will not be perfect until every Jew is dead, no matter where. And they still want to kill them, and that's what they thought they was getting ready to do. You know, they thought that they was getting ready to wipe the Jews out. Number 10, the Jews thought they was gonna get wiped out too, because they was up in there scared, you know. And they had every reason to be afraid, you know. And they just wanted to have a little fun, brought Goliath and put him up there to have a little fun with them killing out the Jews. Number 10, how did the Philistine army react to David's triumph over Goliath? What did they do when Goliath fell to the ground and was beat? What did that Philistine army do? They turned and did what?
They ran.
That's right. They stand and ran. And then if you keep on reading, you find out the Jews. This is something. After David, this little boy that went out there and conquered them and everything, then the whole army got behind the Philistines' army, and they ran them. They ran them away to another country, I guess. It's kind of small, and he got behind them and ran them away. After this had happened, they were so glad. And you know what? They got rest from those Philistines after that. That was it. They knew then, they could see then that the Lord was with them. And the Lord was with them until they kept messing up. And God would just get upset with them and lift his hand. And like I think he has lifted his hand here now with us. The reason we're going.
With us.
That's right. When
God
God.
down and fire, they lift his hand until we get it together.
That's right. He
Some of
lifts
them
his
don't
hand.
believe it. They standing doing grace.
That's right. So, but you know, I got through this lesson here today. And I said I got myself ready. I was gonna make it in 30 minutes, so we got a chance to look at everything. And but then there are some little things I would like to read to you after, you know. And we talked about this, but this is just some things we need to think about. And one of the things is David's confidence in the Lord was so great that he knew he would be victorious over the giant that very day. While it is not stated, it is apparent that David's strong faith was the basis of his confidence. And another thing in this, if you read the story, you will find out, since I know the story, we just talk about it a little. And that was Saul, King Saul. Now, David did a lot of great things for King Saul. He won he won fights after fights that they have, and he did great things for Saul. And King Saul became jealous because, you see, when Saul stepped in the space of the priest, then God left Saul. God was with Saul. He would win whenever they come. There's always fighting, and he was victorious. But when he stepped in the face of stepped in the place of Samuel and did the sacrifice, he messed up. Because remember, when back in Moses' day, when God set the rule, the king was not supposed to take care of anything spiritual. Whatever was done for God was supposed to be done by the priest. So only the priest could do a sacrifice. And when Saul did this, then God lifted his hand from him. So he didn't have any power. God put David there in his place. And at that time, God also sent Samuel. And Samuel, that's another lesson, that how it was done. But God put the blessing on David. So when David was during this time that he was selected, he was selected king at that time, although it still was a long time. He got old, around 30 years, but God chose David as the king back then when he did this. And God had chose David when he went out there and killed that Goliath, that giant. God chose David for the king at that time. Okay, but it was later before he got in to act as the king. He was inaugurated, as we call it, but then, he was ceremonially placed as king. There was a long time. He was older, but God chose him at that age. Now, and the thing of it is, after God had started blessing, and the thing that kind of set it off later on, when David came in after Saul brought David into his army and all that kind of stuff, and gave him a little position as being the leader of a certain amount of people, or army or whatever. And so he did, whenever they'd go out, the group would go out, they go out and conquer or do what they have, then they ride back into the city, and the ladies started singing. And they said something about Saul has been victorious. Saul had killed 1,000, but David had killed 10,000. And that set off something in Saul. After that, Saul was wanting to kill David.
Because he wanted to be the captain.
Because he became jealous of David.
Yeah,
after that, he really was after David. After that, he sought David to kill him. But Saul's son, Jonathan, he had a son, and his son was named Jonathan. And Jonathan loved David. David and Jonathan became like blood brothers. They loved each other. And Jonathan kept David abreast of let David know whatever his father was thinking. When he tried to set up a trap to get David, Jonathan knew it. He would go and tell David and help David to get away. So that was really something about this, that's happened. The thing that Jonathan, his son, loved him so much that he prevented his father from killing him. And David couldn't understand. He asked her, what have I done? He had everything he'd done. He was doing for Israel. Yeah. He wasn't trying to do anything against Saul. He wasn't trying to take over Saul's kingship. He wasn't trying to do any of that. He was just doing what he did to protect Israel because he believed in justice. He believed that, he was a loving person. He believed in justice, and he believed in the Lord, and he had faith in the Lord, and he upheld the law and all of that. And, but Saul kept the more victorious David became, instead of him being grateful that God had give him somebody that could make the country prosper and make and keep them alive and everything. Instead of that, he's jealous of him. And did we see stuff going on like that today?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Every day.
That's right. People come in and they just want to do things to help the situation, to help whatever it is get better. And then when you look, someone is jealous. I've been doing it this way for so long, and the thing come about that nobody, they just trying to take over. They just trying to do this or do that when all they're trying to do is make the situation better.
right.
And we see that very same thing today.
Yep.
So I think that's about it for today. I don't know where the boy is, but this is it, Today, this is about it. Anybody have anything you can think of, you want to say? There's one other thing here, and it let us know that this wasn't for David. Say the ultimate purpose of these events was not to bring glory to David. Rather, it was that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Indeed, all would know that the battle is the Lord, and the Lord does not require swords and spears to gain the victory. And if we look at it today, the battle is whose? The Lord.
The Lord.
This is one situation that we're in now that we have never been in. And there's one thing, if we know anything, we know what? That the battle is the Lord. Because we know now what can bring us out of this.
Only the
Nothing
Lord.
but the Lord, that's right.
Nothing but
What was
Jesus.
David's nationality? I'm trying to look that up.
That what?
What was David's nationality?
Oh, he was a Jew.
It was a Jew. I tried to find it.
Right. Well, see, David's family, his father, his brothers was in the army, the Israel army and everything. His older brothers was in the Israel army. So that let you know Israel and those Israelites were Jewish people. So, and they always mess up. And I think we can't talk about them. People look at the Bible and say, what's wrong with those Jews? They always mess up, and then God come and straighten them out. That's true. But then are we doing the same thing today?
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, as soon as we get a little blessing, somebody want a house, and once they get a house and get the house fixed
They
up,
get the
then
big head.
that's right. What they start doing, throwing parties and inviting in, and we not thinking nothing about having a good time. They don't throw a Bible study and say, well, come on in here, look at here. Look, God has blessed me with this. Come on in here. Let's do some worshiping to God. Let us praise the Lord for what he has done for me. Right. And then if it's something that you're looking for, then we praise the Lord for me, and I'm blessed, and you are happy for me because I'm blessed, and sooner or later the Lord is going to bless you.
Right, but we don't do
But no, we don't do that. What do? We start having the parties and all that kind of stuff, and next thing you know, we our mind is where? Then we go to church a little while, but then after a while we get so Sunday's a good day to have a party. So then we have a party on Sunday. Oh, I believe I'd rather go to the ball game today than to go to church and worship the Lord. So I'm gonna go, and even when I'm there wanting the church to get over so I can get out of here and go do what I've got to do.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just so many
About
ways.
They're holding the service around. I have to get in and keep looking at the watch.
That's right. I'm thinking I want to get out of here. That's right. And I mean, when you stop and think about how they act and what happened to them, The same thing is happening to us today, because they say God is the same yesterday, he's the same today, and he's gonna be the same tomorrow.
Yeah.
So all we have to do is go back and look. He has given us a guide to go by. We have this Bible to go by.
Yeah.
All we have to do is go to the Bible, read the Bible, see what happened when we pull away, see what happened to us when we pulling away, make ourselves conscious of what we are doing. And when we start doing this, we need to start, wait a minute now, let me get a check on this. Now, what I need to do, I need to do some praying. Now, I was praying to the Lord all day long, and now I'm worried about, is my house gonna leak? Do my car need another tire? Not saying that you can't think about these things, but you can't just put your whole mind, you're gonna forget about God and move in all your stuff. When you get enough stuff that you can't think about God doing today, you need to try to get rid of some of your stuff. Give it away, throw it away, or do something with it. And check yourself and find out, what is it that you are thinking about? Are we thinking about the Lord? Are we still praising the Lord? Because the more you get, the more you should be praising. The more you get, the more you should be praising. And another thing we supposed to kind of do, what? Think about what? Our brothers and sisters. Because what he say, the poor would be with us always. So that we are poor. And then when he bring us up out of the poverty and everything, then what are we supposed to do?
Help the one.
We are supposed to look at the other person, and because we know what they're going through, because we know what we went through.
Right.
And we are supposed to help them. Now, I know there are times when we look around, there's some people you can't help. The truth is the truth. There are some, I think Satan plant them where, to put a guilt trip on you, and then you're going to start, you look around at the folks that you can help and the one that you can do something. You try to help them. And if they're the throwaway type that don't want anything, don't want to help anybody, and you look, they don't love nobody, we need to help each other. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
And if we do that, then the Lord will continue to bless us, continue to bless our race, and continue to bless people. And we need to look at it like this. I know that, we are black people and we suffer. There are other people in the world suffering too.
Yeah.
And we need to try to do, whenever someone is in your path that you can help, you help, regardless of what color they are.
Yeah, you're right. I agree with you.
That's right. This is what it is. You don't get hung up. There's another thing that we have to watch ourselves. We have to get hung up. Don't get hung up on what has happened, what is happening in some cases. We have to look at where God has brought us from. What happened? How did we get out of what we were in? Someone helped us.
Right.
So now, what we look at is, we need to help everybody, all of God's children,
Right.
Christians, all of God's children, and then we helping other folks too. Now, people can't just say, I'm looking because he's a Christian, I'm gonna help him. We're supposed to be a role model for God, and we're supposed to be the light of the world. And everybody, whatever race, people are supposed to be able to look at us and see God in us.